I remember the morning I stood in my kitchen staring at an empty chair across the table. My husband of 56 years had passed away a few months earlier, and every meal since then felt like a hollow ceremony. I was 82 at the time, suddenly grappling with a profound loneliness that caught me by surprise. Friends tried to offer comfort. Some reminded me of how full our life had been. Others gave me space to grieve. But inside I felt stuck in this heavy fog, unsure how to move forward without losing the part of me he had helped shape over our decades together. The unsettling truth is that many people in their 80s find themselves navigating a minefield of sorrow after a significant loss. It might be the loss of a spouse, a sibling, or a dear friend you've known since childhood. It might even be the loss of your own independence or mobility, in which case you're mourning a version of yourself that no longer exists. The problem is, we're often told to stay strong or move on, as if grief were a minor inconvenience. The stakes are high because unacknowledged grief can rob you of the peace, joy, and vitality you deserve in your later years. It can creep into every part of your day, making your morning coffee a reminder of who you've lost, turning your once beloved hobbies into joyless tasks, and even causing physical aches and pains that aren't purely medical in nature. But it doesn't have to stay that way. There are practical steps you can take, powerful yet gentle approaches that honor your loss while preserving who you are at your core. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 5 ways to handle grief and loss after 80 without losing yourself. The last approach I'll share is one that most people overlook, yet it can make all the difference when those waves of sadness threaten to wash you away. These insights aren't just my own ideas. Doctors and specialists are finally recognizing that emotional well-being is as critical as physical health in our later years. If you stick with me through each of these points, you'll discover both new perspectives and practical tips that can help you breathe easier, look forward to daily routines, and even rediscover dreams you thought were gone forever. Before we get started, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. That way, you won't miss any future videos aimed at helping you live with more hope and opportunity. And if you find this content helpful, go ahead and type 1 in the comments. If it's not quite what you're looking for, type 0 and let me know how I can improve. Your feedback matters more than you know, and it helps shape future discussions that could be exactly what you or another senior need to hear. So let's begin this journey together by acknowledging that grief in your 80s doesn't have to mean losing yourself. It can instead be the doorway to a deeper understanding of who you are now and how to continue living life with meaningful purpose. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll learn a final strategy that often surprises people, but has the power to transform even the heaviest sorrow into a gentle, more manageable companion. Let's explore our first approach. I invite you to keep your heart open because sometimes the simplest shift in perspective can open doors you never knew existed. First, consider the notion that time heals all wounds. We've heard it countless times, maybe even said it to someone else. But what if that advice isn't entirely accurate? The bold statement here is that time alone does not heal grief. Intention does. Many seniors believe grief will naturally fade if they just wait long enough, but I've seen too many people in their 80s and beyond remain stuck for years because they never took proactive steps to address their sense of loss. Take Mabel, who turned 85 last spring. She lost her closest friend Lillian and assumed she'd get over it if she simply gave herself more time. Yet each passing month found her falling deeper into isolation. She stopped going to her knitting club, refused to join family outings, and told her children she was just fine. But one afternoon, she stumbled upon an old photo of herself and Lillian laughing at a wedding. Instead of tucking it away, Mabel allowed herself to deeply feel the sadness. And then she did something different. She wrote a letter to Lillian, pouring out the memories they had shared and the gratitude she still felt. This simple act became a turning point. The surprising truth is that grief needs a release valve. It's not enough to let time go by. You have to engage with your feelings. That might look like writing a letter, planting a memorial garden, or even telling stories aloud to keep the person's memory present. The practical advice is to create a small, symbolic ritual that honors your loss. Maybe you light a candle once a week and speak a few words of gratitude. Maybe you gather your grandchildren and share the recipe your loved one was famous for, teaching them not just how to cook it, but why it was special. By taking an active role in your healing, you give your grief somewhere to go. Instead of pressing it down or waiting for it to vanish, you acknowledge it, honor it, and then let it flow through you. The emotional benefit is immense. You'll likely feel lighter, more at peace, and better able to engage in daily life. In essence, you shift from a passive passenger on grief's journey to the driver, choosing your own route toward healing. This fosters a sense of control and wholeness that can gently replace the emptiness grief often brings. Another commonly held belief is that if we're strong, we shouldn't talk about our sadness. In fact, many seniors grew up in a time when discussing personal feelings wasn't encouraged. That's why I'm going to say something that might sound counterintuitive. The real strength in your 80s is often found in vulnerability, not stoicism. Too many people think burying their emotions is the tough thing to do. They don't want to burden their children or friends with their pain, so they sit quietly with it instead. But refusing to talk about your loss can lead to unresolved heartache that surfaces in unexpected ways, like difficulty sleeping, sudden irritability, or even physical symptoms such as tension headaches and stomach troubles. Meet Harold, who is 88 and used to be the quintessential strong, silent type. He lost his wife, Agnes, and felt he had to uphold that pillar of strength image. He never cried in front of his family, never spoke about how quiet the house was when they were gone. Slowly, the silence grew overwhelming. One day, his granddaughter noticed how withdrawn he'd become and encouraged him to attend a local seniors bereavement group. At first, Harold balked at the idea. Share his feelings with strangers? It sounded ridiculous, but with nothing else working, he decided to go, just once, to appease his granddaughter. That meeting transformed him. Listening to others helped Harold realize he wasn't alone. Speaking out loud about Agnes made his memories feel alive again. Instead of perceiving tears as weakness, he began to see them as a testament to the love he shared. The practical advice here is to find at least one person or group with whom you can safely talk about your feelings. Be that a support group, a religious community, a close friend, or even a professional counselor. A simple habit might be to schedule a weekly chat, whether in person or by phone, where you allow yourself to open up about your memories, fears, and hopes. The emotional reward is tremendous. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you often gain a deeper connection to others. You also relieve the internal pressure that comes from carrying sorrow in silence. It's as if you release a knot in your chest that's been tightening day by day, letting fresh air and lightness in. If you've been watching so far and finding these insights helpful, let me know by commenting below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so now. Your presence here matters, and so does your journey. Sometimes a simple acknowledgement is the first step toward feeling less alone. It's common to believe that grief must be faced alone, that our sadness is ours to bear and ours alone. But here's a bold perspective. Sometimes the fastest way to heal is to serve or help others. This may sound paradoxical, but leaning into supportive roles can lessen the heaviness of grief by shifting your focus and reminding you that you still have much to offer the world. Many seniors think that once they hit 80, they're past the age of contributing meaningfully. This misconception is pervasive. Society often treats older adults as if they have done their part. But in reality, you have more wisdom, compassion, and life experience than many people younger than you. Pouring that wisdom into service can lead to surprising, transformative outcomes. Take Dorothy, age 84, who lost her younger sister 2 years ago. Overcome by sorrow, she spent days in her bathrobe, unable to muster the energy even to check her mail. Then she learned about a local program that pairs seniors with high school students for mentorship. Dorothy initially resisted, saying, "What do I have to offer teenagers in this day and age?" Yet she decided to try it, figuring she had nothing left to lose. The result astonished her. Dorothy found herself looking forward to these weekly meetups, where she'd share stories of how she and her sister used to navigate life challenges. In turn, the students asked questions and sought advice for everything from college applications to relationships. Over time, Dorothy's grief evolved from an isolating sadness to a meaningful tribute to her sister's memory. She was passing forward the same kindness and support her sister once gave her. The truth is that shifting some of your energy towards serving others can create a healthy emotional distance from your own pain. You're not ignoring your grief, you're giving it a constructive outlet. The practical step is to find volunteer opportunities or mentoring programs that resonate with your interests. Perhaps a library, reading program, a local church outreach, or an online forum where you can share your experiences. The emotional benefit is a renewed sense of purpose. Instead of letting loss define you, you define how you live with loss by contributing in ways that matter. You may find that your sorrow becomes more manageable when it's balanced by the joy of making a positive impact. Now let's continue to the next approach. But before we do, if you're still with me and appreciating this conversation, go ahead and comment 4 down below. And as always, subscribing helps ensure you won't miss future discussions that could offer comfort, insight, or a spark of hope just when you need it most. Another piece of conventional wisdom says, stay busy and you'll forget. Unfortunately, staying busy can be a form of avoidance rather than real healing. But let's challenge that. The bold statement here is that it's not about staying busy. It's about staying meaningfully engaged. There's a world of difference between the two. Most seniors believe if they just fill their schedules, they won't feel the pangs of loss as intensely. They may take on numerous tasks, say yes to every social invitation, and keep the TV running in the background 24/7 just to avoid moments of quiet. While busyness can provide short-term distraction, it often prevents the deep reflection and self-discovery that lead to genuine healing. Consider Reginald, 89, who after his brother passed away, decided to join every club he could find: bridge club, gardening club, seniors choir, and even an online discussion group. At first, he felt energized by the novelty of having new places to be and people to meet. But soon he realized his days were so packed that he had no time to process his emotions. He caught himself feeling irritable, and small inconveniences triggered outsized reactions. It turned out that juggling all those commitments was masking a deeper sadness, not resolving it. The surprising insight is that carefully chosen activities, those that genuinely resonate with your passions or connect with memories of your loved one, can help you weave grief into your life in a healthier way. The practical advice is to pick 1 or 2 engagements that truly bring you joy, or at least a sense of peace. Maybe that's a weekly art class or a morning walk with a neighbor. Slow down enough to let your mind and heart catch up with each other. If tears come, let them. If laughter comes, let that too. The emotional benefit is the creation of meaningful space where you're not just avoiding grief, you're integrating it. You start to discover subtle ways in which your loved one's influence remains alive in your actions and choices. This can offer solace and a renewed sense that life, though changed, is still valuable and beautiful. If these insights are resonating, let me know by commenting 4 below. Remember that your engagement helps this channel continue offering content that speaks to your experiences. If you haven't yet subscribed, now is a wonderful time to do so. By subscribing, you create a small moment of commitment to your own growth, reminding yourself that healing and hope are within reach. Finally, let's explore something most people rarely consider: the idea of actively envisioning your future, even in your 80s or 90s. The conventional wisdom might say, at this age, what future is there to plan? But here's a daring standpoint. Creating a vision for the years ahead can be one of the most powerful antidotes to grief. A common misconception is that life is essentially over after a certain age, especially if you've lost someone who was central to your sense of purpose. In reality, as long as you're breathing, there's a future. Maybe not the one you once imagined, but a future nonetheless. And it deserves some loving care and attention. Let me share the story of Stella, who's 90. After losing her sister to a sudden illness, Stella found it difficult to get out of bed in the mornings. She wondered what the point was, now that her closest confidant was gone. She told me she felt as if she were just waiting around for her own turn to come. But a spark lit up in Stella's eyes when we talked about her dream of finally finishing the quilt she'd started decades ago. This quilt was special. It used fabric scraps from dresses she and her sister had worn over the years. As Stella dove into completing it, she wasn't just sewing pieces of cloth, she was stitching together a vision of herself carrying forward her sister's memory into the future. The practical step here is to set at least one goal or project, no matter how small, that extends beyond your immediate situation. It could be planning a family reunion a year from now, writing short stories or memoirs you want to share, starting a small garden that will bloom next spring, or learning a new skill like painting or playing a musical instrument. The key is to remind yourself that there is life yet to be lived and that you can shape it with intention. The emotional benefit is profound. When you look forward to something, a completed project, a blossoming garden, or even a small personal triumph, you create a sense of anticipation that counters the weight of grief. You begin to see that your story isn't over and that you can still infuse it with meaning, creativity, and joy. This approach also honors your loved one by carrying their influence into the next chapter of your life, rather than letting their memory stay locked in the past. So, if you've ever felt like your future has disappeared beneath the weight of sorrow, let this be your invitation to envision something brighter. Even a small spark can light up the path ahead, showing you that after 80 can still be a time of personal growth, discovery, and heartfelt purpose. Now, as we bring these ideas together, take a moment to imagine how applying them might transform your life. Picture yourself writing that letter you've been putting off, opening your heart in conversation with someone you trust, discovering a volunteer opportunity that energizes you, choosing mindful activities instead of endless busyness, and allowing yourself to dream about the years still unfolding before you. Each of these practices can stand on its own, but together they create a tapestry of healing that can gently carry you through even the hardest days. Grief might still knock on your door from time to time. That's normal. Yet you'll notice that you have better tools to handle it, like a skilled gardener who knows exactly how to care for each delicate plant in every season. The stakes couldn't be higher because you deserve a life that honors both the love you've lost and the love you still carry within you. And why wait? The best time to begin is now. Reflect on which of these 5 approaches feels most accessible to you this very moment. Perhaps it's as simple as writing down a cherished memory in a notebook or making a phone call to someone you trust. Small steps can accumulate into large transformations. Grief doesn't have to define this chapter of your life. You can define it by choosing how you respond. I'd love to hear which idea resonated most with you. Was it the concept of transforming time into intention by ritualizing your grief, or maybe giving your sorrow an outlet by serving others? Leave a comment below and share what you learned and how you might bring it into your everyday life. Even the act of typing your thoughts can be a catalyst for change, reminding you that your voice and experiences matter. If this video has helped you see a glimmer of hope or sparked a new perspective, please consider liking and sharing it with someone who may also be wrestling with grief. When you share, you might just become the bridge that leads another person toward healing. And of course, subscribing ensures you'll stay connected to more discussions about living fully, even in later years. Always remember, you possess a quiet strength that can blossom into something remarkable when nurtured with compassion and hope. You have power over your own story, and as long as you keep writing it, chapter by chapter, you'll find that life can still surprise you in beautiful and unexpected ways. You matter, your feelings matter, and your future matters. That's the message I hope you take with you today. Thank you for spending this time with me. I look forward to our next conversation. Until then, keep going, keep growing, and never forget that the best parts of your journey might still lie ahead.